Are you a podcaster looking for the best audio interface for your one or two person podcast or live stream? There are so many options out there, but there's one that flies under the radar and provides an insane value for the price, and that's the Focusrite Vocaster. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the interface, why I think it's the best option for two-person shows, and why you might not want to wait to get one. And I'll include some affiliate links in the description, and using these links helps support the channel. So, about 3.5 years ago, Focusrite introduced their Vocaster range of audio interfaces, which are aimed directly at content creators. They came in two flavors, the Vocaster 1 and the Vocaster 2. The Vocaster 1 is for solo creators, and you can connect one mic to it. The Vocaster 2 is for two people interviews or shows with two co-hosts. You can connect two mics into it, and you have two headphone ports. Along with that, you get an auto gain feature, which helps to ensure that your gain is set well. And you also get a mute button for each mic, and you get some built-in processing or preset voice profiles, I think they're called. And along with Loopback that's included in the software, you've got a pretty comprehensive package for a content creator. When the Vocaster launched, the Vocaster 1 was $199 and the Vocaster 2 was $299, which I believe was higher than the Scarlett Solo and 2i2 interfaces at that time. This was probably their first misstep. Focusrite priced it higher, and while they did add some nice-to-have features for content creators and podcasters, it just wasn't enough for them to pay a premium. Focusrite also suffered from, let's just call it internet lore, especially when we consider what the internet was like in 2022 when these were released. The internet was still kind of behind the times and running on all of the ancient podcast recommendations that we're finally starting to move away from. You know, things like the best podcast mic is a Blue Yeti. When it came to audio interfaces, the Focusrite 2i2 was the choice amongst budget-minded podcasters. Focusrite couldn't really break through that written-in-stone recommendation with their Vocasters. Let's talk about what makes this such a good interface for content creators, especially at this price point. First, you get 24-bit 48 kilohertz recording, which should be standard in audio interfaces these days, but there are still some devices that are limited to 16-bit 44.1. Next, looking at the Vocaster 2, you get two mic preamps. Each mic has its own mute button. Each person gets their own independent headphone ports. And you get a big volume knob in the middle, which is for adjusting the gain, or let me backtrack. Each headphone gets its own volume knob. And then you've got the big knob here for adjusting the gain for each mic. But having those independent headphone ports is huge because with the 2i2 and so many other audio interfaces, you generally have to use a headphone splitter to connect two headphones. And that means both people connected are stuck using the same volume. And a lot of times people need different volumes for their headphones. Some people monitor way too loudly, and others don't need nearly as much volume. So it's nice for each person to be able to control that. So now for the stuff that probably matters more to the content creators, you get two ways to connect your phone to it. You have Bluetooth and a 3.5 or 1/8 inch TRRS jack. And in addition to that, you can send the output from the Vocaster out to your camera if you're recording video. The Vocaster provides 2 channels of loopback control via their Vocaster Hub software. Loopback is basically just a fancy term for routing audio from your computer into your recordings, live streams, or coaching calls. So to wrap things up on the Vocaster 2, we have 1/4-inch outputs for your speakers, and it won't focus. But that's what these two, there we go. We've got our outputs here, our mic preamps, our phone connectors, USB here, your camera output, and we have a power button, which is a nice touch because so many audio interfaces in this price range, or really in any price range, don't have power buttons. The Vocasters are bus powered via USB, so you don't need a secondary power connector. In use, the Vocaster is pretty easy to set up and use. It provides pretty much everything you need for recording a 1 or 2 person podcast or a live stream. I have a more in-depth video here, somewhere like this, where I compare the Vocaster 2 against the 2i2. But when it comes to recommending an audio interface to clients, the Vocasters are my first recommendation regardless of price. I feel it compares very well with the Rodecaster Duo at a fraction of the price. Unless you're someone who needs sound pads to play sound effects during your show, the Vocaster is going to be a much better option. The Rodecasters in general, they have a lot of bells and whistles, but so much of that stuff doesn't get used by your typical podcaster. And that's why I feel that the Vocaster just blows everything else out of the water. You get a simple audio device with a great user interface. The software is well thought out and easy to use. I mentioned at the beginning that you may not want to wait to get a Vocaster. That's because Focusrite seems to have started blowing these out last year at super discounted prices. $49 for the Vocaster 1 and $99 for the Vocaster 2. You simply will not find better 1 and 2 channel audio interfaces at these prices. They've typically been at those prices the majority of the last year. But now as we enter Black Friday 2025, they've slashed those prices even further. So as we can see here, they're down to $39 and $69 respectively. But really, now is the time to grab one before they're gone. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.